Hello and welcome to the IK Multimedia live stream. We'll be broadcasting from IK's new Sunrise Studios in Sunrise, Florida, and we're celebrating the launch of the Total Studio 3 Max bundle. This has 124 of IK's most powerful music titles, 56 plugins, over 14,600 sounds, tons of presets, and everything you need from composing to mastering. We're going to be talking to various artists, producers, and engineers over the coming weeks, so let's get started. Hello, I'm Dave Kerzner, and we're going to be doing this incredible, fun series on the Total Studio 3 Max bundle. It is a bundle of everything that's come out to this moment from IK Multimedia in terms of plug-in standalone software for the Mac and the PC. It's over $10,000 value for only $899, and that's if you don't already own IK Multimedia plugins. If you do, then you qualify for various upgrades and that are as low as $499, or even with a coupon that automatically gets applied, you could even be as low as $300, which is incredible for $10,000 worth of software. And I encourage you to just log into your IK account and you can see the price. But I'm on the IK website right now, ikmultimedia.com, and we'll just take a look here on the Total Studio 3 Max page, just get a sense of what it has. So you have 124 of IK's most powerful music creation titles in one incredible bundle. You have 56 different plugins, virtual instruments, and effects. But within that, you have, for instance, your complete range of effects that you have are over 480 effects. Almost 500 effects, which is incredible. So within the plugin, sometimes there's multiple effects. There's also, within the virtual instruments, you have different sound samples and physical modeling. You have over 14,600 sounds covering pretty much every genre. So it's a complete studio in a box, essentially. It works with any DAW for the Mac and PC. Like I said, this is a little different than the iOS apps. This is just for the Mac and the PC, but it'll work with Pro Tools, Cubase, Logic, Ableton Live, you name it, Studio One, and also standalone. So I'll tell you what, we're going to be doing each week now from the new IK studio here called Sunrise Studio in Sunrise, Florida. We're going to be doing a series and focusing on different elements of the Total Studio 3 Max as well as other IK Multimedia products. But right now we're going to talk more about what's new, and I'll talk with various artists and producers and give you a preview of what we're going to be seeing in the series. But right now let's have an overview of the Total Studio 3 Max bundle.
Introducing Total Studio 3 Max, IK's all-around music creation software suite. Now more complete than ever, Total Studio 3 users will discover more instruments, more sounds, and more tools for every stage of music production. Let's dive in and see what's in store. Total Studio 3 Max comes with a total of 60 separate virtual instruments and a massive 14,600 sounds. You get Sample Tank 4 Max, your go-to sound library with over 9,000 instrument presets, carefully balanced across the widest range of styles, genres, and sounds. Sample Tank 4's revolutionary sound engine offers a faster and more powerful workflow, and now both these cutting-edge capabilities and the massive new sound library are included in Total Studio 3. IK's award-winning Moto Bass offers an absolutely unmatched realism and flexibility for physical bass, and is now joined by Moto Drum. Both use IK's pioneering modal synthesis to offer the deepest control over every element of the physical drum and bass sounds, while still delivering unbelievable realism and sound. Miroslav Philharmonic 2 offers the most vibrant and emotionally rich orchestral library anywhere, with over 2,700 strings, brass, woodwinds, and ensembles, all performed by professional musicians and painstakingly captured in every detail. Also new to Total Studio 3, Centronic Deluxe offers a cutting-edge virtual synthesizer that raises the bar in sound quality and flexibility, loaded with 22 iconic vintage synths and 2,600 preset sounds, including 5 all-new, highly sought-after instruments. And the new Hammond B3x is the first official Hammond B3 virtual instrument, developed hand-in-hand with Hammond themselves to ensure it captures the authentic sound and vibe of the legendary organ. Total Studio 3 Max would not be complete without the latest edition of IK's flagship guitar and bass tone studio, Amplitube 5 Max, now featuring a fully scalable GUI and freely configurable signal chain design for unprecedented creative freedom, plus a completely remeasured cabinet section that delivers dramatically improved tone and realism. Amplitube 5 Max comes loaded with 14 artist and brand collections for a combined total of 416 ultra-realistic gear models. For mixing and mastering, Total Studio 3 Max comes with 4 complete software titles for a total of 117 high-end processors. Mixbox offers a convenient 500 series style plugin with 70 award-winning mixing processors and creative effects, and over 600 presets. Enjoy a whole new way to work, faster and more flexible than ever with this powerful new plugin. T-Rex 5 Max offers a powerful mixing and mastering plug-in chain with 16 processor, series or parallel effects loaded with 45 high-quality modules that recreate some of the most iconic studio effects of all time with industry-leading accuracy. Enjoy new additions like T-Rex Sunset Sound Studio Reverb, capturing the sound and vibe of one of the world's most iconic studios. And the award-winning Tape Machine Collection, letting you track and mix on 4 of the most sought-after analog tape machines, giving any track that classic analog magic touch. And Lursen Mastering Console delivers the top-of-the-line mastering chain and know-how of one of today's most sought-after mastering engineers. ARC 3 offers breakthrough room analysis and correction software. ARC improves every part of the music production process, letting you work faster, with less effort, secure that your music will translate better across all other playback systems. To fuel your creativity, Total Studio 3 Max comes with thousands of presets, including VIP artist and engineer presets. No matter if you're tracking a Hammond organ or mastering a pop song, instant inspiration is just a click away. You'll find just what you need to get the job done with Total Studio 3 Max. All-around music creation for real.
All right, we're back. And so I see some of the questions. Feel free to field us questions. We got IK's awesome social team here helping me out. But so I see one of the popular responses, questions, whatever, is like, oh my God, I bought Total Studio 2, I just bought it, or I have it already, what do I do? Listen, log into your account, and I have some good news. If you add it to your cart, it'll automatically even add a coupon if you qualify, depending on if you just bought Total Studio 2, for instance. I'm going to be talking about the differences between Total Studio 2. If you have Total Studio 2 Max, then we're talking about an upgrade to Total Studio 3. It's a drastic discount that you get that's totally fair, and you'll be happy with. And the value that you get for upgrading is, without question, at the end of this, if you don't agree with me, then we need to keep talking because it's incredible. So like I said, oh, by the way, I am also giving away for free to one of you viewers Total Studio 3 Max upgrade, or if you didn't own anything before, the full thing in software. And I'll be talking about all the products that come with it, but I'm mainly going to focus on the new ones because there's so many, as we were saying. And so I'm going to ask a question at the end of the stream in about an hour or so, and pay attention to some of the tech stuff because it is actually going to be related. And if you know your stuff, you know your IK plugins. So let's get into it. Let's talk about what's new. I'm still on the IK website here. And so Amplitube 5. First of all, Amplitube 5 itself is new. It's a giant leap for AmpKind, is that what it's called? It really is. All of the cabinets have been redone with this new VRR technology. Again, I could do a whole episode, and I will, just talking about that specific aspect of Amplitube 5. But you know, overall, just Amplitube 5 Max is included with all these. You get 4 new collections, and they are premium. Brian May Joe Satriani, Dimebag Darrell, and the Leslie. So those are just excellent to have. And previously to Amplitube 5 Max and Total Studio 3 Max, you weren't able to get those as a bundle, and you always save buying these Max bundles, and I'll talk about that. But you get, just to get an idea of what that is, you have 107 amps, 101 brand new cabinets with this VIR technology, which in short is like there's 60 impulse responses per cabinet, and you get this ball you can move around in 3D. I mean, just download the demo and try it. It's incredible. I really love Amplitube 5 for being able to do that. It just gives you more possibilities and more realism. And then moving along here, Sample Tank 4 Max you finally get. The previous version had Sample Tank 3, Total Studio 2. Sample Tank 3 Max with just a little bit of Sample Tank 4 engine. Now you get the full 260 gigabytes, 8,000 instruments, plus you get 8 additional Sample Tank 4 libraries. So that's nice. Moto Drum, I'm going to get back to Moto Drum in a second because I'm going to a special thing about that. Centronic Deluxe. Now, previously in Total Studio 2, there was regular Centronic. Now you get the additional 5 for 25 total different Centronic virtual instruments as part of that Sample Tank world, because the engine is Sample Tank 4, but they have these beautiful screens, and each one is dedicated to recreating the sound of those synthesizers, or a group of synthesizers that relate to that family. And we'll be talking to Eric Norlander, the co-creator of that, a little bit later here. But you get, just to get an idea, the VCF3, which is a recreation / model of the VCS3, the EMS, which is a great synth. The Memory V, which is like a model of the Memory Moog, the M Poly, which is like the Monopoly, and SHV, which is like those old Rolands, and the Modulum, which is like a modular synth. So that's exciting. You have T-Rex 5 Max. Now, this is a must. The additions that have happened after T-Rex 5 Max, you also get the newest collections from T-Rex, and this has not been available in Max because the way the Maxes work is it's always, just so you get an idea of it, what is available, it's in everything of that particular category up till the time that it's released. And then if there's something released after it, it's not included with the Max bundle. That's why I'm excited about Total Studio 3 Max, because right now it just includes everything to this point, and there's so many new great things. So for instance, with T-Rex 5 Max, which is still available, there are additional plugins that have come out after T-Rex 5 Max that are not included in T-Rex 5 Max, but they are included in Total Studio 3 Max. So they are Sunset Sound Studio Reverb, and we're going to be talking with Rachel from IK Social, who's going to give us a little inside view at Sunset Sound Studio and talk more about that in a bit. You get the T-Rex Leslie, which is a cooperation with Hammond and Leslie to have the official Leslie plugin for guitar and for pretty much vocals and keyboards, and sorry, I meant mainly for an organ sound, but and we make the Hammond B3x, which I'm going to get to, but the Leslie's fantastic. You have the Space Delay. This is a recreation of a tape echo called Space Echo, which I happen to have right here, if you can see it. Lovely. And it's cool to see, actually, by the way, in the studio here, we have a lot of the hardware counterparts of the various pieces. And over the course of the coming weeks, I'll be talking more about that, a little more hands-on. And then we have the Tape Machine collection, which is 4 different tape machines recreated in software, which is also loved. The ARC 3 system is a room correction software that now comes with Total Studio 3 Max. To complete your Total Studio, to have your speakers, your speaker monitors tuned to your room is a very important key element. And I might as well mention at this point that if you go on ikmultimedia.com and you look at the options, there is an option to get Total Studio 3 Max bundled with iLoud MTMs. These are high-end near-field monitors that have ARC built in and come with a measurement mic. So that means, and it's only $100 more. So it's $9.99 instead of $8.99 for the full. And they're, like I said, log in to see if you qualify for any discounts if you already own previous IK stuff. So that would be the one that I would get if you don't already own iLoud monitors. All right, and then going down here, again, I encourage you to check out the website and click on this Learn More, and also log in to see your prices and add it to the cart. You get the Hammond B3x. This is the first real Hammond organ for the Mac and PC, and you can see you have all these great effects in there. It's just a one-stop shop, and you have a built-in Leslie, the most faithful recreation of the Hammond B3x B3 that I've ever seen. You have Mixbox. This is, if you look here, you can see there's a lunchbox. It's similar to that in software. It comes with 70 effects, borrowed from T-Rax World, Amplitube World. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And even the Centronic World, in the sense you have like filters, so it's sort of like a Eurorack. I love Mixbox. It's one of the newest effects plugins, very useful. And it uses the IK Product Manager as well, which is a new thing that makes installing your software easier in all your libraries. But getting back up to here, you may be familiar, especially if you have Total Studio 2 Macs, with Moto Bass. Moto Bass is a great physical modeling bass plugin, and since then in the Moto series there's been Moto Drum, and now for the first time it's included in Total Studio. Moto Drum is a physical modeling drum plugin for drum kits and drum programming and all sorts of things that you can do. You can change the kits and the actual physical properties of the kit. It's different than samples or sample libraries, which you can also use in Sample Tank. This is not based on Sample Tank. It's its own engine that allows you to do a lot of powerful things. But I'll tell you what, let's see, I think it was earlier last year, before all this, the pandemic and everything started, I talked with Warren Hewitt, who thinks he was actually one of the first to get sick. Maybe he started the whole thing, like the South Park pandemic special. Anyway, okay, so beep. Anyway, I'm kidding. So I talked with, we pre-recorded a little conversation with a whole bunch of different people, including Warren, and also tagged on a little snippet from that presentation at NAMM. So let's have a look at that now. You and I did a presentation at NAMM of Moto Drums, and you were sick, and it was just before all this started, huh? Kind of.
Well, we knew, everybody knew about COVID then. It was mid-January, but it was like, it was supposed to only be in China, and there was a little bit of a conversation about it, but it was about 2 weeks later that I think the first reported cases started happening, and I was so ill. I'd never had anything like it. I mean, normally I get the flu. I don't know about you. I'm pretty healthy. I don't smoke, drink, do drugs or anything. So typically I get the flu for 1 day, and then I'm back working and looking at everybody like, why are they all taking 2 weeks off? Well, I was out for a month, a full month. I was working, but I had that feeling, when an elephant's sitting on you every day, like you just feel so heavy. For a month, and the doctors couldn't figure it out, and there was no testing in those days, and so I assume I had it. That's all I can think. And I do know a couple of people. I saw somebody at one of the parties, and he got ill afterwards, and it lasted for a month, and he texted me. He's like, "You gave me COVID."
Well, knock on wood, I didn't get it, and I was like maybe I was at least 6 feet away from you on the stage.
You were 6 feet away from me, yeah.
But
look, you did an amazing presentation, and I was like,
you were the godfather. You're like, nice Moto Drums, you're doing a good job.
I was impressed. I mean, the thing about Dave, for anybody who's watching, I mean, Dave is a beyond world-class piano player, keyboard player, to say the least. And your drum programming skills on the fly were pretty amazing. And I think that was what was great, because you could just carry the presentation, because you're like, well, I can do this. And then suddenly you're playing like an amazing groove and flicking through all the sounds. I mean, sometimes when it comes to things like demonstrating programmed drums, it's best to just show how it works. And you did an amazing job.
Hey, sorry about that. I had a little clip that I wanted to show you guys from NAMM, but we'll have to save that for another time. But actually, what I'm going to do, I mean, this is live right now, so. And in fact, I'll say a couple things, and there were some comments that I want to respond to as well. But what I'm going to say is Moto Drum, it's a deep plugin, and I love it, and I could show you so many cool ways to use it, from just programming drum sounds to drum parts, to using it for drum triggering, which I'm actually doing for a live album I'm mixing of my own, Dave Kerzner, if you want to check it out on the usual Amazon and the iTunes and all that. And anyway, so we'll do a whole episode on Moto Drums, and we'll just show that to you then. Okay, so I'm going to talk some more about some of the other plugins. So I have here a screenshot of the Hammond B3x. It's beautiful. Again, I'm going to do a whole episode on this too, playing it. And I have an actual C3 organ here I could show you at some point. And also, I want to say, to respond to some of the comments of people saying, they like the studio. Thank you, first of all. It's been several years in the making. We've been wanting to have one at the facility here at IK Multimedia US. And there's a beautiful state-of-the-art studio in IK Italy as well, the headquarters there. But here is where we do the streaming. And so I like the fact that we have some of the hardware counterparts to what you get in T-Rax and Mixbox. And I like to talk about that, in action. Some of the things, because I remember, some people, not everybody has had experience with that. And all I could say is this, okay? Working inside as beautiful as this is, and it is great, and I love analog hardware, I really do. And, you have this essentially in the Total Studio 3 Max bundle. And that's kind of the point. It's like, yeah, I'd like to have, let's put it this way, okay? Some of these effects, I'll get into them, but like, that's a clone of a Pultec, that's a clone of a Fairchild. A real Pultec would cost thousands of dollars, maybe $10,000. A real Fairchild would cost $30,000, right? Just so happens to be, or $50,000. I mean, the old tube gear, vintage gear goes up in price, and then the clones or the new reissues and stuff are less expensive. But you know what's even less expensive than that? $99 in the custom shop from IK Multimedia, right? And if you've never been in the custom shop, I encourage you to check it out. It's really cool in the sense that you can buy a la carte a compressor or an EQ or a stomp box or an amp or a cabinet, for anywhere from $5 to $99. However, I also encourage you, again, I'm not a salesman or a customer support person. I'm a musician and producer like you, songwriter and music artist. And so you always want to get the best bang for the buck, right? We kind of have to. So do the math. Look at it, and if you look in the custom shop and you go, well, actually, I wouldn't mind having a model of a Fairchild, I wouldn't mind having a model of a Pultec, wouldn't mind having a model of an 1176, and a model of an LA2A, and a model of a Neve, and a model of an SSL, right? And these amps, and the Hammond would be nice, and all those different things, the drums would be nice, and add it up and go, I'm better off just buying the Total Studio 3 Max. And myself personally, I use plugins from different companies, whatever. I always go for the everything bundles, those kind of things, because you get the best bang for the buck. And the other thing about that I always encourage is sometimes you know exactly what you're looking for, and other times you don't until you're in the middle of the creative flow and you're writing a song, you're producing a song, you're working with people, whatever, and you go, it's great to be able to go, oh, I have that. Wait, I think I do have a sitar sound in my collection of 14,600 sounds. I think I do have, you know what, you're working with someone, yeah, I can recreate a Neve or an SSL, because keep in mind, one effect in the virtual effect world in your plugins and software is like having a ton of them. I did a session once at a studio that had a real Fairchild 670, and it's a 30 to 50,000, depending on where it's at now, compressor, but they only had one. You and I have inside Mixbox and T-Rax as many as you can load into your computer. So please look at the studio and be inspired. Sure. Look at it and go, oh man, I wish I had that. You can in software with the Total Studio 3 Max. All right, so I'm also going to show you real quick here. Again, other times I will play the keyboard. I've got a little iRig Keys 2 Pro here. I don't know if you could see it, but it just fits nicely right in there like the dude. But now we don't have time to do that because I'm going to do an overview this time. And like I said, we're going to do a series of these, getting deeper into them. But I have one of the Centronic in view here. And there's so many different ones to choose from. Like I said, there's 25 in Centronic Deluxe. And let's do this. Let's talk to one of the co-creators of this synth. He also co-created the original Andromeda synth and has worked and owns an incredible synth collection. Let's talk to Eric Norlander. You've captured the real sound. It's a sample is a recording, so it's literally going to sound probably more like an EMS Synthy or a PPG or a Oberheim than a modeled one, which is recreating it because it's not an actual recording. So tell us.
That's right. And it sounds like a VCS3 because it is a VCS3.
Right.
And it sounds like an Oberheim OBXA because it is an Oberheim OBXA. And then someone at IK, it was you, in fact, had the idea that we should model the filters of famous synths. So rather than just having, samples of the synths and having, using the filters from Sample Tank or whatever, wouldn't it be cool if we actually modeled the filters? And so, I have all these hardware synths here. And so I work with the guys in Italy and we just sent files back and forth where they'd be like, here, record this sample through the filter, record this through here. So through a lot of research and modeling, the modeling process, we were able to model, the famous Bob Moog transistor ladder filter, the Curtis CEM, whatever it's called, 31 something chip, that
the Prophet 5 used and some of the Oberheim synths used. Very popular, polysynth.
Rev 3, OBXA, OB8, PPG 2.3, all of that. We modeled the Roland IR, whatever, I should have these names, but it's the Roland filter chip that's in the Jupiter 8 and the Juno 60.
That's awesome.
Which sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And what else? Oh, the Oberheim
SEM
variable chip.
Squid,
in the SEM. In fact, those SEMs are the ones that we modeled for.
That's
Centronic.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you can, so with the combination of the modeled filters and modeled drift and other things that are put into it, you have this kind of like you don't have is the exact architecture of the original synth. So you sacrifice that compared to, let's say, a purely modeled synth from another company that that's popular or whatever. But what you do get is a more authentic sound because, like you said, it's a recording of the real thing. It's not going to get any more realistic sounding than the actual real thing recorded, especially the way that you did it, where it was very intelligently done, pulse width in sync, and all these different things that are like, okay, it's going to sound right. But then you can animate it and do its subtractive synthesis and stuff with the filters. But there's one extra thing that I think is really fun, and that is kind of like what we're looking at behind you, which is make it a chameleon. Like you can say, take the sounds of a recorded ARP and run it through the Roland filter, or sounds of a Moog and run it through an Oberheim filter, and all those different things. And of course, you guys have done tons of patches. Now, for those who don't know, I go back with Eric years. I mean, I used to create sounds he worked at Alesis, and I used to help create sounds for the cards for the QS. But Eric, being a synth enthusiast for decades, helped create the Andromeda that you were just talking about. You helped design that synthesizer, right? Which is an amazing, legendary synth. And like you said, you can't get it everywhere. But there is actually one of the 25 virtual instruments inside Centronic is a recreation of the sounds in the way that we're talking of the Andromeda, isn't it? It's called the Galaxy.
It is. It's called the Galaxy, right? And
that's cool.
Not only that, but I even had our friend Taiho Yamada, who was another developer of the Andromeda, do a lot of the presets.
Oh, cool.
And you'll be able to tell in Centronic which ones are Taiho's because he named every one of his presets after a galaxy. So this is like super nerd humor.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what are you calling it? I said, well, we're calling the Andromeda the Galaxy. He's like, okay. And so when he sent me his presets, in a very dry Taiho way, he's like, okay, so I named all my presets after galaxies. So I didn't even know there were that, many named galaxies, but there are
billions and billions. But yeah, I don't know the names either, but he would. That's cool. So, so tell us, what are some of the synths that were recreated in Centronic?
Right. So just first of all, let me give you the actual numbers. So in Centronic, each synth, what we call a synth, like the Galaxy, for example, or the PPG Wave we call the Blau, the Taurus pedal we call the Bully. Each of those synths is essentially a sample tank library. And of course, each one has its own interface that looks like the original hardware. But sometimes a Centronic synth is more than one hardware synth. Like in the case of the J8, which is the Jupiter, it samples not only of just Jupiter 8, but it's also samples of Jupiter 6, of MKS 80, and Jupiter 4 as well. Cool. So it's actually all those. And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's some users that might have rather had like 4 different interfaces for all those different Jupiters. Yeah. But to me, it's like, okay, Jupiter 8 is the greatest sounding of all those, no question about that. But the Jupiter 6, I mean, okay, it's not the same, but if you a Jupiter 6 is a lot closer to a Jupiter 8 than a Prime 5 is to a Jupiter 8. So to me, like combining them like that made sense at the time. Yeah. And we did that with some of the Moog synths. Like there's all the little black synths we called the Noir, and it's the Multi-Moog and the Micro Moog and the Rogue. Those are all put together as well. And the poly ones, like the Polymoog and the MG1, one other one that I forget. Oh, the Opus 3 are all combined in one synth called the Polymorph. Yeah. And so with the MG1, obviously, we sampled the poly sounds of it, the paraphonic sounds of it, more than just the mono, because the mono sounds of it sounds very, very close to a Rogue. It's arguably the same synth in a certain part of the architecture. Right. So.
Oh, well, all right. So we have, basically something for everybody, from EDM artists and techno synth geeks all the way to the heaviest rockers. And by the way, so I want to say, so somebody had commented saying that the iRig really ties the room together or something like that. Ironically, it does. The iRig stream is how we are streaming the audio right now. And I'm also using the AXIO as the interface for, even though we're not doing anything live right now, but we will. I have it as a second interface. I also have a multi-channel interface with some Z-Tone DIs connected here in the studio. But again, I'm going to talk about that stuff. Believe me, we're all going to talk about it because they're just really cool tools, and to see them in action, I think is going to be a lot of fun. Just really get a sense of what you can do. The AXIO is it's maybe the best interface for getting in and out with your guitar and bass of the computer, and especially to be able to reamp with Amplitube 5 is incredible, meaning that you can record, mic up your amp, you have 2 channels on there, and then you can record a DI and get a clean DI sound at the same time. You can also take that DI if you want, use the reamp out of the AXIO and back into a real amp. Or you could take that clean DI sound and reamp it inside the box with the 107 different amps in Amplitube 5 Max that comes with Total Studio 3 Max, 101 cabinets, 107 different stomps. Let's take a look at it. So I have it here on the screen right in front of me. So you see all these amps that you can choose, and you could just change an amp by just double clicking on or single clicking on it actually. Brian May's AC30. It's, by the way, one thing I want to point out, and this is really important. This is the ultimate, it's not just a studio, a complete Total Studio. It's a complete first-class, amazing collection of amps. I don't know if you've ever seen, there was this great book I used to have from Aspen Pittman, rest in peace, called the Amp Book, I think it was. And you just read this and go, oh my God, I need to own all of these. I have to have a wall of amps, so I can get that sound. There's a Supro, the Fender Tweeds, the AC30, the Orange, the Saldano. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Ampeg, GK. And then, of course, these specific amps that are owned by Brian May, Slash, Hendrix, And then, of course, in the new collections, Satriani's own gear, which even includes this, by the way, the Boston. This is a model of a Rockman. I always wanted this. This is the sound of Boston. It's called the Boston 100. But when you go through, so let's say you want to go, you go up here and you say stomps. It's real easy now if you want to just, you look through your stomp collection and you're like, okay, I want to grab this filter phaser here, and you just drop it in. There it is. And you can just, you can go through any of these and just, you know, just, oh, here, sorry, that was the rack effects. I got a little excited, which is also cool, by the way. The rack effects have now become part of the chain. You can put them anywhere. So you have your stomps. Again, here, this is, you know, so there's just so many. Cool, look at this big pig. You know, some of them, if you're familiar, oh, yeah, sorry, if you click on it already, and if you, anyway, you can drag it in there, or you can click on one and then just double click something else like this, or change it to whatever. Again, there's so many. And then you also have the rack effects. Oh, this is cool. I used to have one of these. This is a model of the Marshall Governor. You know, so a lot of these pedals, again, you know, I say this a lot, but it's just true. When you collect vintage gear, whether it's studio outboard gear, vintage amps, vintage pedals, or even sometimes the recreations of the pedals, it can get costly. You know, a Univibe, oh, this is cool. I love this one too. This is a model of the Chandler Tube Driver. David Gilmour used that. I love that one. You've got all these filters. Let's see. Fuzz, the fuzz face. You have two different style fuzz faces. That's another cool thing I love about this, by the way, is that with Amplitube 5 Max and with Total Studio 3 Max, you get all of the different models over the years. This, for instance, is a model of a Boss CE1 chorus. It's the best chorus ever made. You know, and a real one costs $1,000. This is the MX model of an Mxr Flanger, Eddie Van Halen used, and a Fox phaser. Those Fox pedals are cool. I want more of those. This is actually a rare, I have one of these. It's a model of a Mxr Flanger Doubler. That's what Mike Rutherford used on Follow You, Follow Me. That's a cool one. There's so many, this is a model of a Small Stone, but each of these, oh, here it is. Okay. This is a model of a Univibe. If you like Dark Side of the Moon, Breathe, that's what David Gilmour's using. Those are like $2,000 just for one pedal. And like I said, in the custom shop, I think it's $10 or $20. But when you do the math with Total Studio 3 Max, it's essentially free. I mean, literally, like you go, if you just pick some things and you go, I would want this, this, and this. If you have 4 or 5 things that you would want, just look at it like, well, if I bought those things, it's like getting the rest for free. And by the way, I have some of these pedals, even some of the ones that were actually modeled for Amplitube here in the studio. So I'll be pulling them out and showing you in the course of the series of videos we'll do from the studio here now. Anyway, oh yeah, here's another good one, the Fender Blender. I love, Steve Hackett used that with Genesis. It's a great, so I love stomp boxes, and actually I'm a keyboard player mainly, and I like to use them on keyboards, and you can use them on vocals. You know, that's another great thing about the Total Studio 3 Max, and that's what I mean about, you know, let's say you're not a guitar player or a bass player. I mean, if you are, it's a no-brainer. You should at least have Amplitube 5 Max. I mean, I don't know how you can resist. It's, you know, but of course with Total Studio 3 Max, you know, if you're coming at it from being a guitar player or a bass player, you could look at it like, let's say, oh, I definitely want that, but wait a minute. For just a little bit more, I could have all of these virtual instruments, Moto Drum, Moto Bass, Sample Tank, Centronic, and all the libraries, and maybe you were going to buy them or you weren't going to buy them, but for this price, you just get them. And then you might realize after, oh, I'm so glad I have Moto Drum. I would say Moto Drum is a staple piece that is a must-have for every musician. And I would say, just for personal, Sunset Sound Studio Reverb also is. But anyway, so you get all of these, and again, there's so much to talk about. You have Amplitube, Leslie inside of here. Oh, I want to just show you real quick, though, the cabinets, because this is a huge thing, and I mentioned this earlier, VIR technology. So for those who don't know, you already get the ability to mic the cabinet, move it around, choose which mic you want. You can change it around to a different mic. Right? All that's already been great. The overheads, you can, you know, look at all that, right? Like you're in a studio. But VIR technology has 600 impulse responses done in a way we have 360, and you move this around like you would move around a mic to the sweet spot of the cone, and that adds this extra realism, and not just realism. I'll get into the depth of this. It's incredible. It gives you essentially like an EQ and ambience control like you would really have in real life. You know, to get different sounds, it's not always just processing with outboard gear with EQs and compression. A lot of it, and top engineers will tell you, is which mics you're using, what's the mic position and the angle of what you're recording. And so now, for the first time, you have this realism in software with VIR technology. It's huge. But anyway, let's cut to our own Derek Floyd, who's talking with Sean Stockman from Boys to Men, and they'll talk a little more about Amplitube 5 as well.
As a guitar player, it's all about the tone you get from the guitar. And with a product like Amplitube 5, man, there's so many choices to create a tone.
Bro, I told you before we started this whole thing, how much your mind like is just blown just by all of the things that you can do.
I know,
on this software. Like, it's so many choices, from the amps to the heads to the cabs to the pedals to all the things that you the rack mounts that you can put the
yes
effects,
sir,
the
yes
reverbs,
sir.
like even down to not only where the mics are placed on the cab,
Right.
but the type of mic you use to place it on the cab. So it is so like involved. And me still being me personally, I still believe I'm a novice in, a lot of the effects and what goes into what makes a great sound. Mm-hmm. So while I've been recording, it's just really been a good time because I just explore. Like, I don't have any preset notions or ideas of what it is I want to personally sound like. I just hear something that I like and I say, okay, I want to record that. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Derek. And we'll have more of that interview and other interviews that Derek has done. Like I said, some of these have been pre-recorded, so we have some awesome content talking to various artists, producers, engineers, as well as our own team going out in the field as much as we can right now, which is obviously limited with COVID and all that. But anyway, so let's talk about some more things. First of all, I just want to say again, just so you don't miss it, I am going to be giving this software away. Total Studio 3 Max, $899 value. Actually, it's $10,000 value, but you can buy it for $899 or less if you already own Total Studio 2 Max. You get a drastic discount. I think it could be, I think it's around $300, the upgrade. But you only get that after you log in and put it in your cart. Okay, and then it'll show the coupon. It gives you another $200 off, because otherwise the upgrade for if you just own the plugins, again, you have to log in to be sure, because it could be different where you are in the world, but it's generally, I think, around $499 instead of $899. And then don't forget, though, that there is that bundle for $999 with the iLoud MTMs. And just so you know, the iLoud MTMs, a pair of them, they're $350 each speaker, so a pair is $700. So that makes it $300 even if you're just coming in off the street. You never had any IK plugins, and there's a way to get it that way with the speakers. If you don't already have MTMs, it's a great idea to get that bundle. All right, so talking more about new things, what's new that you get with the Total Studio 3 Max that you didn't get with the previous Total Studio version 2, the tape machines collection. You get 4 different tape machines. I have them here if you want to look at the screen. The 440, the 80. Now these are just different style tape machines, and I'm going to have Tom Lord-Alge on here. He loves the tape machines and Sunset Sound Studio Reverb and some of the other plugins, and what he likes to do with them is use them as a saturation tool, which is a very interesting thing because you have a lot of different controls that you can do. But at this same time, it's meant for adding warmth of tape. Back in the day, you get thicker tape. This is like a 2-inch tape machine, whereas this would be a 2-track tape machine. And they all had different sounds, these different models of Studer and Ampex. So it's nice to have a variety of them for different flavors, for adding warmth to either your final mix or your individual tracks. The tape machines is a powerful plugin. It does take up some CPUs, so you have to kind of think economically with it, but it's worth it because it gives you a quality that's kind of been sort of lost in the digital world because it's not very, okay, like I'm a big fan of the analog gear and vintage and modern recreations of tube gear and whatnot, like you see here. And I actually have some tape machine gear here that I've kind of rigged even just to go through the mic pre-part. But it's one of the things that's not so practical really to do today. It'd be very expensive to maintain an analog tape machine for your studio. So this is just a great way to have that sound as a plugin. And I think a lot of people who love tape and are used to tape are just thrilled to have this. It's so convenient. Then, of course, there is the most coveted of some of the new plugins that have come out since Total Studio 2 Max. And I'm really excited about the fact that finally all of these great new additions to the T-Rex world, like Sunset Sound Studio Reverb, can be purchased in a bundle to save on all of them. So we're going to go to Rachel here in a second, who's at Sunset, but I just want to give you a quick overview. You have the 3 different studio echo chambers here, and it's so easy to use. You just click on these buttons, the live rooms, and inside you actually can see what you're listening to, which I love. You get a 360-degree view inside the plugin, and then you have options to choose various things like the mic position or whatever each effect offers you, and options dampening for the plates you get. So there's plates here, choose different, EMT style or the echo plate. You even have the ISO booths. And we're gonna talk with Paul Camerata, the owner of the studio, and he'll tell you more about these famous ISO booths that were, this is the one where Prince would have sang, Purple Rain, Van Halen, Eddie Van Halen, and David Lee Roth would sing in this booth, and the echo chamber. Studio 1 is where Eruption was recorded and things like that. So anyway, let's go over to Rachel, who's at Sunset Sound Studio, and talking with Paul Camerata.
Hi guys, I'm over here in Hollywood, California in Studio 1 at Sunset Sound. We're here with the studio owner, Paul Camerata, and we're going to talk about what's going on over here today.
Cool. Hey, Paul.
Good to see you.
You too. How's it going over there right now? Are you able to do any sessions?
Oh yeah. We've been recording for many months now. All COVID protocol and keeping things clean, but most of the old guys over here are vaccinated, so we're protected.
That's good. So tell us a little bit about the studio itself in terms of, let's say, the ambiences that are there. I mean, what is it, first of all, about these, the live rooms that are so special, or the echo chambers, and just what's there that, you wanted to be captured forever in a plugin? Tell us a bit about that.
Well, we're a 3-studio complex, and currently we're in Studio 1. So Studio 1 was the original room here at Sunset Sound when there was only one room. And this is where we started everything. This is where my father did the original Disney work. And then we started morphing into the rock and roll bands that did come in here, such as the Doors. All the Doors records were done in this room. So this room is, like I said, the first room, but we have 3, and they all have significantly different flavors and acoustics. So Studio 1 is more of a rectangle room, low ceiling, changeable acoustics. Studio 2, a much higher ceiling room, 22 feet, I think, much bigger volume, changeable acoustics. And Studio 3 was our last room to come online. That's kind of a combination of both rooms. It's sort of a rectangle room, but it does have about a 14 to 16 foot ceiling. So none of the rooms are the same, if that's what you're getting at.
Right.
Captured with IK Multimedia, each room in its particular flavor here at Sunset Sound, along with the vocal booths and along with the chambers that we have.
Right. Now, so each of these 3 studios has its own dedicated ISO booth, right?
Each of these 3 studios has either one or multiple ISO booths. So Studio 1 has 2 ISO booths. Studio 2 has basically 2 also. And Studio 3 has 1 large ISO booth on the side.
Mm-hmm. And then each studio has its own dedicated echo chamber as well?
Well, yes and no. I mean, we have 3 different echo chambers, and they're all patchable to each room. But the Studio One echo chamber that is off the control room, it's so adjacent to the control room that you can't really use it with the other rooms if somebody is working in Studio One, because you get bleed. So, but if nobody was in Studio One at the time, they have patched into the one chamber, the number one chamber, which is our original chamber from like the 60s. And you hear all those 60s, recordings that were done here, Doors Again, things like that. That's going through that chamber, Eddie Van Halen, Eruption, things like that.
Uh-huh. Now, for those who don't know, maybe you could explain, first of all, echo chamber, it's not something that very many studios have, right? It's kind of even become even more and more rare, would you say?
Yeah, not anymore. They don't have, because it's kind of a lost technology. Back in the day, there were no electronic reverbs. There was only mechanical reverb. So you either had a echo chamber that was created basically with a room that had four walls, kind of a box that you put a large theater speaker in one end of the room. We use these Altec Voice of the Theater speakers. They used to be in movie theaters. And then we have RCA ribbon mics on the other end. And they bounce the sound around and they create this echo in the room. So that was one way to create reverb back then, or echo. And the only other way was literally a tape machine, and where they did slap with the tape machine. Other than that, there really wasn't anything. There was the Emt Plates, but I think those came a little bit later on, which you have in your plugin also.
Yeah, so talking about those, so you have a variety, you have several different Emt plates, and you also have another one called an echo plate?
Yeah, so we have 4 Emt original German plates, basically a piece of stainless steel that vibrates with a microphone on one end and a pickup on the other, and the sound goes through this huge piece of stainless, and it kind of just reverbs a little. That's one. And then we have an echo plate, that was kind of a copy of an Emt plate. I think that was done in the 70s. And we got one of those, has a little different flavor. And then I think we have an AKG BX20 reverb that you also modeled.
Yeah, the spring reverb.
Yeah, spring reverb.
Yeah.
That's another animal altogether.
And one of the cool things I like about the Sunset Sound Studio Reverb plugin is you have all of these, so it's like a suite of all of these great useful ambiences that all these awesome bands would use, producers, bands, artists that have come through there over the years, going back to Led Zeppelin and, Smashing Pumpkins and Prince and, Van Halen, everybody. And of course, now anybody can have access to this character sound that you're talking about. But not only that, there are certain things that you can do, let's say, with a real plate, you can dampen it, right? You can shorten the length of the reverb.
Yes, the echo chambers you can't really mess with.
Right.
We don't like to have people go in there and move the mics around or anything like that. So they're kind of a stable. But we have 3 different size echo chambers. So depending on the length of delay you want, you would pick that chamber.
Right.
But with the plates, you can change the delay on them. So they are more flexible.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Big thank you to Rachel and Paul there for an inside look at Sunset Sound, the studio itself. And yes, recreating the ambiences of that legendary studio is, I think, a must-have for your rig, for your studio rig. I'll go into more detail, and we'll see more of that interview and interviews with various producers and engineers who have worked there, because it's a deep plugin. When you say reverb, and you think like, well, I have a reverb. Why do I need another reverb? It's like, there's nothing else. This is a very specific sounding reverb that recreates the ambiences of the live room, the ISO booth, the plates, the spring reverb there as well. And it's just, it adds a warmth and a glue to your track like no other reverb. You just have to try it out. Okay, so I have a very special guest who came into the studio here the other day. We pre-recorded it with Tom Lord-Alge, a multi-Grammy winning producer engineer. Let's have a look at that.
How are you, Tom?
I'm doing good. I brought the infamous Mix Cup. Never go into a studio without it. And congratulations on the new Sunrise Studio. It's absolutely magnificent. Nice to be here.
Yeah, so this is the sort of the grand opening of the studio here, and it coincides with the launch of a Total Studio bundle called Total Studio 3 Max, now, which has everything from T-Rax, Mixbox, Amplitube, Sample Tank, all the virtual instruments, the Moto.
They drive a truck to your house and deliver everything.
And actually,
it has all the IK plugins.
It has all the IK plugins up to this time. That's how those Max's bundles work. And so it's a real exciting thing because the previous Total Studio 2 Max was great. But it didn't include some of the plugins that came out after that a lot of people love, like that you love, Tape Machines, Sunset Sound Studio Reverb.
Gotta have that one.
Right. So, and many other Amplitube collections. So, and also here's another thing, because I know you're a huge fan of the iLoud MTMs and the micromonitors.
I am.
Okay. There's a bundle, and this is really good for somebody coming in and just wants literally a complete studio setup. There's a bundle for $9.99 with the Total Studio 3 Max and a pair of MTMs, which would normally be $700.
Wow.
So that's
for $900.
Yeah. So, $9.99.
$9.99. So for $300, you get all the plugins.
Yeah.
Everything.
As a bundle together with the MTMs. So that's kind of a.
And you get the MTMs.
Yeah. Well, it's the other way around. But yes, it's a complete package.
Buy the MTMs.
Yeah, because otherwise, the way that it works is that you have, with these Max bundles, you get essentially, it's like all these collections, that, complete collections that have everything. You get a better deal per if you were to buy them individually. So you save thousands of dollars already.
No, and I mean, first of all, the MTMs are great. They're great monitors. I use them every day. I use them in my studio. I'm using them for critical balance, and I love them. And I can tell you, they're saving my hearing.
Wow.
Because obviously, they're a smaller monitor, but they pack a big punch, but they're not super, super loud. So, you don't have to worry about your neighbors,
right?
Or your hearing for in my case. So it certainly is nice. I do enjoy them. And I get people all the time. They're like, do you have a subwoofer on those? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I go, that's just the way they sound,
Yeah, and the other good thing about them for your studio is that they have a built-in ARC, which is a room correction software built into the speakers, and then people can take the measurement mic that comes with it and just hit a button in literally a minute or two. You can tune it to your room and get the acoustics
and
right.
I did the before and after. So, I pulled them out of the box, hooked them up, listened to them, and then did the room tuning, and the difference was unbelievable. Once you've done the room tuning, it just sounds unbelievably great.
Cool.
Yeah, sounds like it should.
So that's an option if you're looking for a pair of monitors. You're not going to beat that deal. But the software itself is a great bundle, and it has a lot of things that you use. Why don't you tell us a little bit, what are some of your favorite IK Multimedia plugins and why?
Recently, I've fallen in love with all the tape ones, the tape emulations. I've always been a big fan of those type of plugins. I like the IK ones because, again, you can grind them. So in other words, I just go into heavy saturation where I just turn the input volume up all the way, and then adjust the output volume. And sometimes I'll even go into, where the little tweaker adjustments are and even do it more. And you can literally use it as almost as you can use those adjustments to adjust the amount of saturation, but you can also use it to adjust the amount of distortion that you may or want to be adding to it. So I'm a big fan of the tape emulations. And of course, the Sunset Sound is magnificent, absolutely magnificent. And I can't say that I've been surprised, but I was pleasantly surprised at how many sessions I've received from clients that have had that in it. Cool. A lot of cats using it on guitars, for a guitar room, and organs and stuff like that. It's great on drums. To be honest, it's great on anything.
Right. Yeah, because you have in Sunset Sound Studio Reverb, you have plates, you have live rooms, and of course these are rooms where Van Halen and the Doors and all these great Prince recorded, and so they're just classic sounding acoustic spaces.
But most importantly, they sound good from when you open them. So in other words, when you just open up and you switch from room to room, they sound great to begin with. And then you can customize if you want to put a little pre-delay on there, or maybe you want to make it a little shorter or dampen it. It's super, super easy. They're awesome. It's an awesome plugin. The other one that I actually really like, as I sit here and look at your analog delay over there, is the
The space delay?
The space delay.
Yeah.
And the one thing that first of all, I love the space delay, period. The one thing I really love about IK's space delay, the IK version of it, is that you can use the spring reverb in stereo. Good luck you doing that with any of the other versions of that, you know, which is something that I really like, because I love that spring delay.
Yeah.
It's just got this really, you know.
Tony Banks.
Exactly. Exactly. Put Mellotron through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, but now that it's stereo, it makes that Mellotron even grander.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting because we've talked about this a long time. We've worked together. In fact, we're going to play a clip from one of my songs called "Stranded" that you mixed.
Love that song.
Featuring Steve Hackett, Tony's buddy, and from Genesis. Well,
Tony's former bandmate.
Yes, and of course, you know, you love the one plug-in effect.
Every once in a while, well, not every once in a while. As a matter of fact, almost every mix, you know, they want to hear what it sounds like mastered. You know, so some artists like to hear that. And I'm like, no problem. Look, I'm not a mastering engineer, but the one sure makes me feel like I am.
So one is one of the many plugins that are in T-Rax. So the original T-Rax 5 Max that's still available has 38 different effects that come with it. But there were these other plugins, and Tom mentioned most of them: the Tape Machines collection, the Space Delay on its own, Sunset Sound Studio Reverb, and also the Leslie. Have you had a chance to mess with the Leslie?
Yeah, Leslie, come on. And again, the one thing I like about Leslie is as soon as you open it up, whatever the preset is that it opens up to is almost 90% of the time the one that I use, because it just sounds great. Great on guitars. Try throwing some delay throws in there. It's awesome.
Oh, it's a great idea.
It's truly awesome. So.
And the cool thing is that now, as of now, if you get the Total Studio 3 Max bundle, this is the first bundle where you get all of those at a drastic discount, because previously it wasn't available in T-Rax 5 Max. But I'll explain more about that later. So,
but if you buy the MTMs,
you
go in, not only do you get a great set of monitors,
you get an insane deal.
Then you get all these plugins. So then look, let's not forget about the British channel. Let's not forget about the compressors that are in there. Let's not forget about the reverbs that you guys have in there.
Yeah, now this is what we're talking about. These are the effects that have been in T-Rax 5 previously, and you love those. Let's talk about the British channel real quick, though. So it's a model of the SSL 4000, and that's a console that you use. That's your main console.
That's my console, yeah.
And how does the British channel and in general plugins? I mean, do you still? I guess tell us, why do you still use them when you have the console? What are the advantages?
Okay, so yeah, I have a SSL 4000 G Plus with Ultimation. It's my baby. I love it, and I use that in concert with my DAW and plugins. The reason why I use the plugins, to be straight honest, is the plugins don't break.
Okay.
I mean, I'm talking about a console I'm working on. It was built in 1993, so we're coming up on its 30th year,
right?
And it's magnificent. It's a workhorse, but again, every once in a while, you have to deal with maintenance issues.
Yeah.
So I use my console more as like a mastering console. So I'll do my mix, and then as I'm nearing the end of the mix, I might just add a little bit of equalization or additional compression to what I'm inputting into the console. So that's kind of how I use it. But the advantage for the plugins is that they don't break. They're always working, and you can use as many of them as you want.
Yeah, that too. And you can recall
and it's an immediate recall.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the system, the way that I mix has worked very well for me. And certainly the IKs kind of allow me to focus my energies on being creative as opposed to trying to figure out how it works.
Right.
So they're all very familiar to me, British channels especially, and one of the other things that I've always found helpful on the IK plugins is the ability to do MS EQing or,
right.
Either MS level changes,
yeah, it's nice.
Sort of mid-side. So sometimes, a lot of times, especially like with a stereo bass synth, you know what I mean? I'll make it sound nice and tubby using the mid channel.
Right.
And then on the sides, I'll roll out that bottom end so that the bottom end
more
information stays right in the center.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would brighten up the sides or maybe put a little mid-range bark in on the sides.
Mm-hmm.
So I always really like that about those plugins. It's super, super easy. And yeah.
Talk with Tom Lord-Alge, and the song that he referenced, "Stranded," which is a song of mine with featuring Steve Hackett from Genesis, is actually available to view. I was going to view it here, have it, but let's just. We're getting a little past the hour. I'm going to do the giveaway here, but if you want to see it, just go on YouTube, go to the IK Multimedia channel, and type in Tom Lord-Alge. He does 3 different videos breaking down how he makes the drums, how he makes the guitars and keys, and how he makes my vocals. So, and that's a lot of really good content like that, tips and tricks. All right, you ready? I am going to give away Total Studio 3 Max. I have the IK Social team who's going to help me pick a winner from the people who answer this question correctly. You ready? All right. Do you see this unit here? Okay. Do you have the angle? Can you see it? All right. That is an actual Roland Space Echo RE201 tape delay. So all you have to do to win is be picked from the correct answer, and the correct answer is, what is the name of our model of that in T-Rax? What's the name of that? I'll give you a few hints. It is, I did mention it, it is one of the 480 effects that come with Total Studio 3 Max. It is also one of the new things that you get. And actually, previously, it was only available in Custom Shop on its own for 99 bucks. It still is, but it is essentially free. Well, it's free. You get 100% off whoever wins Total Studio 3 Max. That's the best deal you're going to get. So good luck. So go ahead and put in your answers, and like I said, someone from IK Social team will tell me who the winner is. In the meantime, I'm going to talk about something else that comes with Total Studio 3 Max that is awesome. It's a newer product. It's called Mixbox. And like I said, I don't know, Dan, if you're able to show, if you could see this beautiful thing here in hardware, that is a 500 series rack, okay? And I'm going to have my iClip overhead cam next time I do a stream here. This is the first stream from the IK studio, so congrats. I love this place. You're going to see me a lot here. Anyway, so that's what a Mixbox in hardware is kind of like, a lunchbox they call them sometimes. But it's like a hybrid between that, a multi-effects unit, and I was saying like a Euro rack only because you have some of the filter models that we were talking about from Centronic now as an effect that you can run anything through. So if you look at the screen here, I have some of them loaded up. You have 8 slots or 4 slots. And by the way, I saw Chris Fessler, it was, okay, said a really good point, which was that one of the benefits of buying a whole bunch of plugins from the same company is you get familiar with them and you get used to using them. I totally agree. And even though I say get all the plugins that inspire you to make music from whoever, there is definitely a benefit to the workflow. I'll tell you some of the benefits actually, and then I'll get into Mixbox here. But one of the benefits is all of the IK plugins, and I've gotten spoiled by this, have stretchable GUI, which means you can make them larger or smaller. This is an underrated, I start pulling some of my other plugins from other companies. I'm like, why isn't it doing that? They don't all do that, but all the IK plugins and the Total Studio 3 Max do. And you may find that to be just a reason alone. Another reason is it's not tied to hardware or a dongle even. So you can authorize your Total Studio 3 on, if you have a laptop and a desktop and multiple machines, as long as they're your machines, you can install them on multiple machines and use them at the same time. If you had somebody editing while you're mixing or doing things like that, which I do. So I like that. And there are many other features, but like Chris had said, they kind of have some familiarity, not to mention when you get familiar, not just in the GUI and the ease of use, musicians first, it's very easy to use. Most of the, if not all the IK products, you don't even have to open a manual. It's just so intuitive and it's easy to use. And then there's a few things you can pick up that are really handy, like for instance in Mixbox, if you explore or you just get this little tip right here, like this button, opens up the wet dry mix. And on Mixbox, by the way, to have this chain of effects and have a wet dry mix per slot means that you could do parallel compression. You can add in the chain a subtle amount of, let's say, distortion. I've got distortion. Let's say you wanted to do a vocal chain and you want to just add a little bit of distortion. Instead of making a parallel track and just doing it that way. You could store it all in here and save it back as a preset. It's really cool. There's a great video with Marcela Areca, who is an engineer, works with Dua Lipa and many other artists, and Danja is her partner at the studio, and she talks about Mixbox. Check that out on YouTube. But anyway, so you have models of Neve, models of Pultec, models of the SSL EQ, and by the way, there's 70 effects, but no, there's actually now, as of just recently, a new release, which is this beautiful thing, the British Dynamics. So together, this is the British channel, which is a model of an SSL 4000. It's the console that Tom Lord-Alge and his brother Chris Lord-Alge use, and many people like. And now we finally have it. So we have a compressor and gate in Mixbox. So that's 71 effects. Not bad. Here's an example of one of the filters. This is one of the best filters ever made. It's a model of the Oberheim SEM filter. And then you can go in filters and choose like, wait, well, let me see. I want, what's R? I wonder what that stands for. I could give away all day long. You know, let's do a quiz. By the way, you should check me out on IK's Instagram. I stream every week during the middle of the week, one of the days at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, sometimes 2 or 3 days a week. And I've been doing it for a year since the pandemic started. So you have that, and I'll pull up some others. You know, and in those, by the way, the reason I thought of that is because sometimes I'll pull it up and I'll just say, like this contest, and I give away gear credits for the custom shop all day long. What's this a model of? That little fun quiz. But for now on here, we're just going to do that one big giveaway. Make sure you answer, by the way, again, if you want to see it. There it is. It looks very similar in software in the T-Rax edition. I need the T-Rax name of the plugin that's a model of the Roland Space Echo RE201. All right, so you got all these different filters. Look at this. That is a model of the Kurz filter, which was used in the Prophet 5. You have a 12-pole. That's really cool to have as part of your effects. Right here, remember I mentioned that Fairchild 670 that's $30,000 to $50,000. You get that in you get a model of that in Mixbox and T-Rax. Here's a model of that chorus I was telling you about. Now, just speaking in terms of tips and tricks, and again, I will do a whole episode just talking about Mixbox. It's so deep. But in general, one of the things I like about Mixbox, sometimes people say, well, I have T-Rax and I have Amplitube, and or I have Total Studio 2 Max, which didn't come with Mixbox because it came out after, but it now comes with Total Studio 3 Max. Why would I need that? Why would I want that? What's the benefit? It has some of the same effects I already have. Well, number one, it's a little lighter on the CPU. You may not, if you wanted to just, let's say, load a distortion to put on a vocal or something like that, or a little chain with some of the effects from Amplitube, but without opening the whole Amplitube with the amp and the cabinet and everything else, this is a quick way to do it. If you wanted to do a dry, wet, parallel processing, parallel compression, this is a quick, easy way to do it. If you wanted to set up chains, while you can kind of do that in T-Rax, and of course you can do it with Amplitube for guitar and bass, this might be a little more sort of chameleon-friendly for keyboards. In fact, this is an interesting thing. Inside Sample Tank 4, which again is another deep product, it kind of has a built-in Mixbox, and Mixbox sort of was born out of that. And I remember myself when I saw it inside Sample Tank 4, I requested, because again, I'm a musician, producer, engineer like you, and I'm like, is it possible that we could just, run other sounds through these effects? And now we finally have that in the form of Mixbox, which is, again, like a lunchbox multi-effect. So it's nice to have, and going back to what Chris said, the viewer, Chris, getting a reference with such a good question or a good comment. When you get familiar with the qualities of the modules itself, the modeling, it's nice to be able to say within this context, oh yeah, I love IK's model of the Boss CE1 chorus, or I love the model of the 1176, which I do. I love that black 76. I use that on every mix. It's cool within the context of this or other plugins too. Moto Drums has great built-in effects. Sample Tank has great built-in Sample Tank 4 has great built-in effects, and then Mixbox does. And one of the things I've always loved about companies, very few companies, even in hardware, make all of these different devices, virtual instruments or instruments and effects, and then when it's under one roof, then the other products can benefit from the intellectual property or the models of the others. So that's why Sample Tank sounds so good. It has all these great modeling effects. Whereas let's say maybe another company that just makes a sample player doesn't have all that at the ready. So in that different context, it's great to have the staple pieces in the studio, like 1176s and LA2As and these particular tube compressors or a channel strip, a model of a channel strip from an SSL, all that stuff is just the premium stuff that you'd want in hardware. And to have it in software means total recall, means you can use it on as many tracks as you want. So it's like having 10 or 20 of them. When I did an interview with Chris Lord-Alge, another top multi-Grammy winning producer engineer, brother of Tom, and he had 20 1176s or more in his rack in his studio. And I thought to myself, even myself, don't worry, I saw some of the comments where people say, I wish I had all that gear, right? And when I have this gear, and then I'd see Chris's studio, and I'm like, I wish I had a rack of 20. But then I thought, well, I do, and so do you. You have it here in software. And with total recall, it doesn't break. There's so many benefits. So anyway, there's that, and finally, to top it off, as I said earlier, it comes with ARC 3, room correction software to just make sure that whatever monitors you have, obviously if you get the bundle with the MTMs, it has it built in, but you get the ARC software you can use on any other monitors to tune your speakers to the room. All right, so do we have a winner? Let's hear. Daniel Chiaffi, congratulations. And you just won Total Studio 3 Max, $899 value. Well done. And of course, the answer was the space delay. And again, that is one of 480 effects that come with Total Studio 3 Max. It's one of my favorites. And just like I said, I own a real one in hardware here. But to have it as a plugin is actually nice because when I was saying things break down in hardware, that's one. It's got a tape mechanism in there. I think that could easily. I'm careful not only to use that sometimes. And by the way, the space delay is great. You should try it out. Most of the effects, a lot of the plugins you can try out for free anyway. There's nothing better than your own ears to judge. You try it yourself and you go, and you have 2 weeks to try the demo version and you're like, okay, you can even mix a record in that time for free on IK. So I encourage you to at least do that. But don't miss out on this great deal. Go to ikmultimedia.com, subscribe to our YouTube channel here to be hip to, and on Facebook, hit like, do all those things so that you're aware, because we're going to be doing a lot more of these streams from the new IK studio. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you again soon.